All right, what's up, everybody? This is the Mortgage Coach 10X Tuesday interview that I have been doing for over 16 years. When I first started doing this, it was coming out of the meltdown, and there was not a lot of sales meetings happening. There was not a lot of leadership happening, and I've always believed, whether I was a salesperson, like well-run weekly meetings with top producers sharing best practices has value for everyone. First of all, the loan officer who's doing the leading is getting value because anytime you prepare to get on a stage and bring leadership, you get a little better. Anytime you get so good at something that you can teach it, you get better. And then, of course, everyone watching this on YouTube, everyone that's live on Zoom is getting value. So today, it's not my first interview. I interviewed James a couple, was it 2 months ago or a month ago, James?
Yeah, I think it was last month sometime, early in the month, last month.
Yeah, it was last month, and I was actually referred to James by Brian Koss, someone that I have just known most of my career. I knew him when he was a player coach. He was actually producing and used to be one of the best and most successful loan officers in the New England region. And then he's become a leader in the industry now. But he's like, Dave, you've got to interview this guy. And thank you, Brian, because James Allen, who we're going to interview today, is killing it. When I interviewed him last month, it was like, hey, how are you closing 28 loans in this market? We'll put a link down below to that. Sounds like he's on track for another 30-ish loans this month, which would put him on track for over 300 loans. I checked out a couple different data sources, MMI and Ingenious, and it looks like there's like 400-ish loan officers closing 300 loans a year right now. So, James, you are one of the 1% of the 1%. Congratulations, man.
Thank you. I feel lucky to be in the business and have the partners we have. They're just super loyal.
Yeah, well, I want to kick it off the way you answered that question when we were prepping. I said, "Hey, what's your goal this year?" And you told me, but I really want you just to repeat what you said because I thought there was some value people could just get by how you're setting a goal for this year and why you set that goal.
Yeah, you said how many loans are we aiming to close this year? And I think it was like a two-part question. What's your growth rate goal this year? And I answered you truthfully, which is that we as a team have a 0% growth rate goal this year. It's not that we're against growing. We're just not focused on it. We went through a pretty interesting exercise last year. In fact, I'd strongly recommend that people take a real inventory and go through this in their business. If they, everyone talks a big game about wanting to grow as a loan officer. And when you're at 3 loans a month, you want to get to 5, you want to get to 10, you reach these levels and there's new challenges that present themselves. And so you reach 20, you reach 25, you reach 30 loans a month. There's always new challenges. So you always want what's ahead of you, but you never can anticipate what the problems are when you get there. And the problem that I have experienced with growth is that if you grow too quickly without the right people and without the right process, it can impact the service level you want to give. And so we're really, really focused on dialing in process this year. We're really focused on customer delight and partner delight and doing some really special things with them to kind of make it a deeper relationship. But the exercise I went through last year was a real inventory, which was like, hey, what makes us special? And the list of stuff we came up with was, honestly, the answer was nothing. It was like, well, we close on time. Our pre-approvals are good. We don't get loan denials. We have great reputation in the market. We're fast. We pick up our phone on the weekends. I'm sorry, if you're open for business as a lender in 2024, that's like the bare minimum to be in business. So it's not extra. It's not special. If you're not doing that, you're not going to win. If you want to win and you're not doing those things, you're not even meeting the minimum expectation that realtors would have for you. And so I crossed all these things off the list and just decided this is not special. If we want to be special, we've got to do things that are hard. And so we've rolled out some stuff internally it's hard. It's a lot of work, but it's all geared toward creating more partner delight, more customer delight, and really getting back to the roots of how do we make people and partners feel special in the process where it's value for them. So growth goal for this year is nothing, essentially. But if we grow as a result of focusing on service, then I'm happy with that,
Well, my takeaway from the way he answered that question is he is obsessed with being special and delivering unique value that is not common in his marketplace. And he knows that, one, he's doing enough business that he's probably profitable. I hope you're profitable at that level of business. And so he's right-sized his organization. He's got a profitable operation. He sees that there's a real opportunity to gain market share, and he's just focused on being better. And my message to that, regardless of whether you're struggling, I guarantee anyone that's not doing 5 loans a month, you're not special enough. You are not delivering a unique, valuable experience, and you're not doing it at scale. So I think that advice is great for people that are struggling. And then I think going into this market with the NAR changes that are coming into play, like it's truly a sea shift in the industry. Now, who knows on the other side of it? Like I've talked to top people that I respect that are like, it's going to be the same. Like it's, it's going to be the 80-20 rule. And they make a case for how it's a little change, but it's not going to be that big a difference. And then I've talked to people that I have immense respect with that think it's a really big change. And they have a list of very profound impacts for both lending and mortgage. So I'm going to go to that. I want to know, how big a deal do you think this NAR change is, and how much is it impacting your value proposition and your strategy today?
Yeah, so really hot topic. I've actually spent the last dozen lunch and learns talking about this issue, mostly because what I see the public coming out with is confusing for real estate agents. I see a lot of competitors saying things that I don't know that we're really clear on yet. So your question is a couple different parts. I'll break it down for you. You said, how big of a deal is this? Well, first of all, it's honestly not a huge change necessarily. And it's possible that Fannie and Freddie will come out with some actual clarity on guidance that allows for this to be less of a big change. But in reality, what we need to focus on right now is the fact that when this rolls out, and if it rolls out, DOJ passes it and all that stuff goes through, and if this rolls out, there is going to be a change in which realtors have to actually express their value to a customer on the front end. But the mechanics by which we talk about financing or paying commission in cash, these things have always been available as terms of the contract in real estate. And it's been customary in some markets to do it one way and customary in other markets to do another way. And that's kind of the basis of what Fannie and Freddie have recently come out and dialogued about. But in general, you've always bought a house for $300K and there's always been a 6% commission. That commission has always been financed into that purchase price. In other words, if you wanted to offer, $390 or $290 and pay a $10,000 agent commission in cash, you could have done that, right? You've always been able to do that. So there's not really a huge change if we're talking specifically about financing commission, which is the hot topic right now that agents are concerned about. They want to know solutions for, hey, if my borrower doesn't have, or my customer doesn't have enough cash, what can we do with that thing? The thing I find interesting, Dave, is Fannie put out that bulletin last month, and every lender in the entire world screenshotted that bulletin and posted it and said, hey, big news, exciting change. Fannie's now going to let you omit commission from the interested party contributions. And so this is the message that was perpetuated in like all the realtor forums. And I saw agents picking up on that and posting it as well. What I find interesting about that is it's almost as if people were not really reading the words on the actual bulletin that Fannie put out. And so I don't have a screenshot of that, but you guys could all pull it up if you want to. It's the common one. Everyone screenshotted where it's talking about interested party contributions. But the very first part of that bulletin says the purpose of this is to clarify current policies, not to establish new ones, right? They're basically saying, hey, this is to bring clarity on what we've always allowed. And basically what that bulletin says is, to the extent that it's been customary in your market for agent commission to be paid for by a seller and a seller's agent, and to the extent that the seller and the seller's agent continue to do that, there's really no change. That's always been omitted from interested party contributions. And so it will continue to be in that context. The issue is that a lot of lenders who I think are wishful took that and posted it as, hey, it's going to be omitted from interested party contributions carte blanche. And I don't think that that's what Fannie and Freddie is saying at all. And the reason I don't think that has actually something to do with what happened in 2019. Now, I'm sure will remember this. Dan, who's with New American Funding, who you interview a bunch.
Dan Keller.
Yeah, Dan Keller. He's great. He was teaching on seller buy down at that time. And that was a strategy that we adopted. I don't know if you remember, but rates hopped up in Q3 pretty high. I think it was 19. It might have been 18, where rates jumped up high. And at that time, we were doing seller buy down, where the seller was buying interest rates down for the buyer. And at that time, we were buying 5, 6, 7 discount points. And you might say, well, how can you buy 5, 6, 7 discount points without a loan being considered a high cost loan and going out of compliance? And that is what led us to dialogue. I was at another company at that time, but some senior people and myself were able to dialogue a little bit with Fannie Mae back and forth at that time. And they distinguished something really, really important that is highlighted now with this issue. And here's what it was. When a cost is paid for by a seller, it is always omitted or it's on their side of the CD. And when it's credited for by a seller, it's on the buyer's side of the CD. So the reason this is meaningful is at that time, we had to use contract language to obligate a seller to pay for discount points instead of credit for them, right? And what that did was it moved those discount points over to the seller's side of the closing disclosure and omitted it from the APOR calculation so that it didn't trigger high cost loan. It was a compliant way to buy more than 3 points because those points were actually purchased by another party and it was a contractual obligation. Now, why is that meaningful to this NAR discussion that is coming out right now? Well, here's what it comes down to. If you write a contract with a 5.5% concession on it, say the limit's 3% on your deal and you do 2.5% for commission, that deal might go through and it might not. And I don't know how your company will interpret that. Probably it will go through for a while. But if we find out later that Fannie didn't mean it that way and all those loans are buybacks, that's a major problem for our industry. What I think is actually that NAR, that bulletin that they put out, Fannie and Freddie clarifying in this, what it basically says is, hey, if you continue to pay commissions the way they've customarily been paid, they're going to be omitted. So like, let me give you a clear example. In Connecticut, it's always been customary for the seller to pay transfer tax, excise tax. Now, this is not true everywhere in the United States of America. There's places where it's split. There's places where it's paid for by the buyer's side. And in those places, it would be customary to be treated how it's customary locally. The reason this is meaningful is this: that bulletin Fannie put out has a bigger message that's underlying that I don't think very many people are talking about. And it's this: if we start writing contracts where the seller is now crediting a fee on the buyer's side of the closing disclosure instead of paying for it on the seller's side, we're going to change the way that commission is paid customarily over 5,000, 10,000 transactions. And at that time, those numbers will no longer be omitted. And so if we look at commission the way it's been paid historically, at least in Connecticut, I'll speak for my market, sellers have always paid for it. And so what Fannie has said is, hey, if the seller continues to pay for it, meaning it's on their side of the CD, if they continue to pay for it, then it's omitted, just like excise tax, just like those discount points in 2018, because it's a payment. It's a contractual obligation. If it's credited, then that's a big question mark right now. I think we need some clarity on whether they're going to treat it that way or not. And that's a hot topic that we're kind of looking at, here. And I know our company is looking at it as well, but I think Fannie will bring more clarity on that. I'm just using Fannie generically for the GSEs, but the long and short is, I don't think Fannie came out and said, you can now get a 5.5% concession. I think they're saying you can get a 3% concession. And to the extent that the commission is still paid for by the seller the way it always has been, it'll be treated the same. But if it's different, it won't. The presupposition in that whole thing that they put out was, by the way, community, you guys can change the way that commission is customarily paid. If we start writing contracts where the buyer is paying for their own commission and that fee always moves over to the buyer's side of the CD, I think that's going to be included in IPC and cause a major issue for us. And here's where you see this now. If you buy a foreclosure property from Fannie Mae, you contractually agree to pick up the excise tax. It's on your side of the CD and it's included in the maximum 3% seller credit, not excluded, right? So there's still times now where contractually we treat it that way. So this is a hot topic. I'm spending a lot of time talking with agents about it. The truth is we don't really know how it's going to play out, but I think there's a lot larger conversation than very many people are having right now. I realize this is not popular opinion. I'd love for it to be like, hey, we can do 5.5%. It'll be great. But I'm reading this honestly from some experience through learning with Fannie and Freddie. And I know some of our people have reached out to them and confirmed some of this stuff as well. So I'm not making any blanket statements. Obviously, companies are going to interpret this, but you asked about it. This is what we're talking about right now and spending a great deal of time interpreting. The big thing I would tell lenders to think about is this: if you're not asking right now your partners how deals are structured in terms of who's paying the commission, you're going to end up in a deal that's going to blow up in the middle of the transaction where you're short cash to close. So by practice, we're already starting to test with our partners. Hey, if we use this language, like we have a rule, if I send out a pre-approval, Dave, it'll say, here's your payment, here's your cash to close. And now we're talking with our partners about, hey, what language do you want us to add that's basically saying, is the commission included or not? And what percentage is being paid? So I think as lenders, we've got to be in front of that and asking about it. But that's what I would say. Like the quick tip right now for people is ask your partners on every deal. I've got 3 deals in the pipeline right now where buyer's paying the agent commission on a deal and it's not listed that way in the MLS. I wouldn't know it. It's not necessarily, it was on a rider to the contract. If we didn't ask the question, we wouldn't know the answer. So I would say get in front of that rollout and start asking that question now when you're releasing letters.
Love it. So guys, just finished the first quarter of this 1 hour interview. And my 2 big takeaways are: one, do a value prop audit right now and be super candid, be super open-minded that you are not as special as you think you are, and have some things that you're going to add to your process so that you are truly special and valuable in this post-NAR settlement shift. Be a leader to realtors. I mean, I think it's just obvious the way the guy showed up just now, the way he answered that question. He is leading his community. He's doing the research. He's asking questions. He's getting in front of this. So let's unpack for the next, I don't care if it takes 5 minutes, 15 minutes. What does it mean to you to be a leader to real estate agents? Like what are the things you're doing right now to bring leadership to agents? I assume you want to gain market share and you want to use all the changes happening to win and to grow.
Yeah.
So what's your playbook, man? What are you doing?
Yeah, so it's the answer, Dave, is that it's changing, and that has to be the answer. It's always changing, and that has to be the answer, right? So if you don't change with the market, you're going to get left behind. It's like a train that leaves the station. You're either on it or you saw it leave and it's gone. This is the issue with the cycles that we go through. Seller buy down, super popular in 2018. It's part of 2019. Not popular today, right? Because you can't get it. Today, we have appraisal gap issues. There's all kinds of new problems that arise in every kind of financial market that we're in. Inventory problems bring new problems. Competition brings new problems. In Connecticut, where I live, I think Realtor.com said Hartford County, which is where we are. We're the #1, knock on wood, #1 purchase lender in Hartford County. Hartford County was rated the most challenging real estate market in the United States of America last year by Realtor.com and a few other sources for competition. And there's like 20, 30 offers on every single house right now. And so every little edge matters. But you asked how we lead. Here's the answer to the question. Problem solvers get paid. It's just that simple. And so if you can be on the cutting edge of identifying the problems in your unique market and having real solutions to those problems, articulating those in a way to your agent partners that help them to have the light bulb go off on, ooh, okay, we can solve for this now. We have a solution to this problem. That helps them win the bid. It helps them get more deals under contract. And ultimately, it helps you get more deals. And so the entire proposition that we have is, what problem are we facing now? We evaluate this every 3 to 6 months. And one of the things I tell partners when I talk to them is like, I don't really care about being a top producer in the sense that like, it doesn't really matter that I do a lot of loans. That's not a cool thing to say. If anything, you sound kind of douchey when you say it that way. But there is some data in that is helpful. And here's what it comes down to. I see more contracts where a buyer and a seller come to terms than my competitors do. And I'm seeing the terms by which we win deals sooner than my competitors are seeing them because those contracts hit my desk first. I evaluate that data ongoing and I compile, okay, here's what's going on right now, here's what's winning. And these are the things that my partners get access to from a data perspective, which is just observational. This is what we see in the market. Here's how we won. Here's why we lost. What can we do with that data to create new solutions? How do we come up with ways to present that solution with clarity? How do we help the customer to understand that solution so that they can get comfortable? Those things is how we do it. I love to teach, so for me, it's kind of a natural way. I know that that's not everybody's forte. Not everyone loves to do that, but for me, I love to teach. So honestly, Dave, I think it's find the problem and be the solutions provider.
So there's first takeaway from second quarter here, and we talk a lot, like one of our product peers, and how we design our entire ecosystem from MortgageCoach to how we predict data. We call it speed to need, and we think that the lender and the professional that can get to the need the first with a presentation, a solution wins. And also, especially when it comes to data, predicting purchase business. It's great if you can predict refis or someone's refinancing, but when you can actually predict who's most likely to want to move up, who's most likely to want to move down, who's most likely to want to buy an investment property, and then speed to need, address it in a way that's unique to yours, you win. And so, I mean, it sounds like that is your play. And then I love, I mean, dude, you're so extremely consumer first as a leader that I don't think I've ever heard anyone say it the way you just did, that you're able to, without saying, oh, I close a lot of loans, so do business with me, you were able to turn that into a customer first centric statement. Because I look at so many loans, I have a unique view on the problems in the market, and that gives me a unique view on solutions in the market. That's valuable to the realtor. So I love that, bro. That was super slick. I do want to push people watching this. If you have questions or if there's a big shout out, yeah, I noticed many of you guys are using the reactions, and we're seeing a lot of hearts. So keep that action going. And Kathy, I love it. She called out problem solvers get paid. So let's get into a little bit of the how, unless of course you have another, big strategic paradigm around how you are a leader to realtors. I mean, if you do, great. But I also want to get into, okay, well, how are you doing that? Are you doing lunch and learns? You doing meetings? How are you delivering leadership?
Well, you touched on one thing already. So like, okay, obviously the realtor wants their client to use you because they don't want to be hazed by big lender A or big lender B. And I'm not going to name anybody because that's not what I'm about, but you know who I'm talking about. The lenders that will haze your partners for 30 or 45 days and torture them. They don't want their clients using those people. They want them using you, which is why they refer you. And so, you kind of alluded to it a minute ago. It's not cool to be like, hey, I'm number one, I'm great, use me. That's not a thing I want to hear as a consumer. But what I do like as a consumer is what you alluded to. And I think that people on this call should leverage this, which is leverage the experience you have to be the solutions provider. Hey, client, one of the problems you're going to face in this market is that it's incredibly competitive. There's going to be lots of multiple offers. The reason that Jane Smith, your agent, referred us is because we have a great track record of getting deals under contract. One of the things I've been able to do as being one of the top lenders in this county is I have so much data I get to look at to see what's winning and what's not. And these are unique ways that we're going to help position you. I think as a lender, when you do that with the consumer, you're actually helping your partners. You're leading them because you're helping them avoid being hazed by these other big box shops that they don't really want their partner to be with anyway. So that's part A to your question. Part B is, how do I do this stuff? I mean, honestly, I love to teach. So I do lunch and learns as regular as possible. I'm trying to get in front of groups of agents to articulate value and let them know what it is that we do, what makes us different. And there's a lot of stuff to that that's, even beyond what we're talking about on this call. But we're talking about, usually I'm not talking about loan programs. Like, they know they can get 3.5% down FHA, 5% conventional. They know these like high level things. They don't know, how do you structure an appraisal gap? What is a recast, and how do you buy and sell after? What is a seller buy down in a market where it's more of a neutral market? What's a temporary buy down, and how does it create cash flow relief for the consumer? We're talking about real solutions to problems at an agent level that I think is helpful for them to understand. And then through that, a lot of those folks will reach out to us one-to-one, and then we'll get deals and start to build relationships that way. But we have to earn trust on every deal, and I'm not lost on that ever. So that's our goal every time, is like, how do we earn as much trust as possible? And I think being an authority figure will help you do that. And I think one of the ways you can be an authority figure is to teach on solutions that you can articulate well.
So, I mean, you've now become a mortgage coach, and I don't remember exactly how long you've been a mortgage coach delivering a total cost analysis to consumers. But what is your why? I always, when it comes to adopting a new piece of technology or adjusting a process, I always tell people it starts with why, and the more clear you are on that why, the more compelling that why is to you, the more likely you are to get through the pain of change. But, why did you go from not being a mortgage coach to being a mortgage coach, and why are you leaning in so much in this market?
Yeah, so this is something I talk about a lot with consumers, with partners, and it relates to Mortgage Coach directly. And this is what I say, and I use this for all kinds of things that helps me do my job better. And here's what I say: I hate anxiety more than you do. I just do. And the reason I want all your docs up front, and the reason I'm going to underwrite your entire loan up front, is because I don't like stress, and you don't either. And the reason I use Mortgage Coach is because I don't like stress, and neither does the consumer. Mortgage Coach creates a mathematical conversation that allows me to make a rate lock conversation with zero anxiety. I remember sending fee sheets to customers early in my career and just feeling like dread on like, well, what if they don't like this? What if they don't understand it? What if they get a fee sheet somewhere else and it's confusing? One of the things that I've adopted in the last several years is, how do I become an advocate with the consumer? How do I teach them how to shop for a loan in reality? How do I make them feel like they're shopping for a loan with us by using tools like Coach? And then how do I make the decision process super clear for them as a mathematical decision? Now, there's times where we have to, and we can look at some of this when we look at the TCAs today. There's times where we have to offer advisory service where we're looking at timeframes and giving advice based on what we know about the market and believe. But it's always a mathematical decision, as opposed to just, hey, if I tell somebody in an email, take the higher interest rate, and I don't explain clearly that buying discount points are not going to be recouped in a time frame that they might refinance, they don't like that advice. And if I tell them buy 3 discount points and I don't explain it creates a higher net worth, they don't like that advice either. Mortgage Coach solves both of those problems in any market. And so for me, it was as simple as just taking the anxiety of the lot call right out of the equation. And it's been like that. Do we win every single deal? No, we're human like everyone, but we don't lose very many. And if we do lose something, we're purely beaten. A credit union with a 5-1 arm at 5.99, like, sorry, dude, like, take that deal. That's a good deal. But other than something outrageous like that, Mortgage Coach really helps us sell and take the anxiety out. So truthfully, it was a play for me to be a better salesperson that made it mathematical. It was advisory service based, and it took the anxiety away from me. And that's something that I just really value.
Yeah, no, I hear that all the time. And then I hear from folks that once you've gotten good at it and you know how to do it, it saves you time. It's actually a faster, easier way to do things. Now, what are your thoughts with the NAR settlement coming down? And it's going to be more important than ever that a real estate agent is communicating their unique value, that there's going to be a new level of value for a loan officer like you that's not just showing a fee worksheet. You're showing options, and you're also showing net worth. So you're essentially showing hey, here's a game plan to build wealth with real estate and achieve financial freedom faster. Do you feel like that's going to increase your value prop and make you even more special in this evolving market?
Totally. So there's 2 things I think. The first thing I'm going to say, I bet you 90% of loan officers in this call have not thought of, and I think they're going to be very excited to hear this, but it's true. Knucklehead consumers who think they're going to get a better deal without a real estate agent are going to come to you first. And you're, for the first time in your career, going to have an opportunity to refer deals to real estate agents by demonstrating their value and articulating in a clear way why their commission can, should, and has always been paid for as a part of the transaction. You will literally have an opportunity to get new partners because people will come to you thinking they can bypass agents, and you'll be able to sell them in a way that is truthful, will help them. They'll get better guidance by using an agent than you and some knucklehead attorney who doesn't know what he's doing in the market. And you're gonna have that opportunity. So to me, that's like super cool. But how that ties in with Coach is, we're already starting to like think these things through. And shout out to Sean, if you didn't see Sean Herrero's interview last month, I think it was 10X last month. He showed a chart where how he's demonstrating the actual agent commission being paid in cash, being financed, short appraisal, and all different stuff. But if you don't have a way to show visually to the agents and their clients the options they have to handle commission, be it with concessions, paid in cash, finance, single premium MI, all these different things that you can do and show, and also mathematically articulate through Coach, then I think you're missing an opportunity. So my expectation is, as soon as this rolls out, really, I think as we get closer to August, my lunch and learns are going to shift. And the whole entire lunch and learn presentation will not be talking about the NAR settlement at 50,000 feet, but bringing it down to 10,000 feet on, here's the ways in which commission can and should be handled in the contract, and here's what we recommend. And then articulating that to people. When your client's putting 20% down or 5% down, how does it differ? We are going to create boilerplate TCAs that we give to agents to look at and use in their buyer consultations. And probably we will get looped into those consultations in many cases. So I think there's a huge opportunity for people who can articulate for the agent something that they can use to actually demonstrate their own value and make it a lower cost structure for the consumer in the end. And Coach will allow us to do that. So, and Sean demonstrated that beautifully. I don't want to take any of his thunder. Go watch that. His thing was great, and I'm sure we can talk more about that, but that's my 2 cents, Dave.
Yeah, and we'll put a link in chat. Here is the actual video. It was 22 minutes. We have a playlist called Getting Ahead of the NAR Settlement. So you can see Jeremy's version of this. You can see Dan Keller's version. But you'll notice, I mean, he not only did it, but then he actually got into the total cost analysis. If you scroll into the show notes, you could get his actual TCA. So we're not going to get into it in detail, but I am right there with you. He's showing how to build net worth with mortgage decisions, and he's showing how to pay for the realtor's commission based off of whatever the new rules are. So if you are a producing manager on this call, make sure you're leading by example. Go watch this. You should know how to do this. To your point, James, there'll be a time where that becomes speed to need, when there's more clarity around that. Oh, by the way, Cody just asked the question again. When you do your lunch and learns, are those in person, on Zoom, or a hybrid of those?
I don't like Zoom in general. I mean, I'll do whatever I can get access to because I'm not going to turn away opportunities to teach and add value, but my strong preference is in person. I'd rather do it for less people in person than more people on Zoom. And the simple reason for that is I can tell who in the room is really gravitating toward the information. And it kind of helps me narrow down. Like if I'm teaching to 20 people and 4 or 5 of them are really engaged, really loving what we're doing, there's probably a high likelihood we might have a good connection on a personal level if I was to meet with them for coffee or whatever and try to build a relationship. So I think it's good in general. I'll also tell you, there are people who don't engage in the room who do love it and will reach out to you and that you'll be surprised by and say, wow, like I would never have guessed that person loved that time, maybe because they're shy or whatever. But I personally prefer in person.
Yeah, and Cody, my answer on that, because I've interviewed so many different people, and I've also been selling myself for 38 years. Nothing is ever going to beat the personal connection of being in person with a person, having a meal with someone.
Yeah, break bread.
Connecting with people is always going to be the alpha way to go deep and create connection. At least I strongly believe that. But I also think Zoom is awesome, and I use it strategically. I recommend you use it strategically, but make getting in person with people. And I love that you distinguish, even if I'm going to have less people, like do lunch meetings. I mean, I'm interviewing people all the time right now that are doing truly lunch and learns, coffee and learns. I'll bring the coffee to your office and we'll learn. So, connect with people one-on-one, connect in small groups, and connect in big groups. Do it all.
Yeah, Dave, I think people think like, oh, if I do a lunch and learn, I want to get a whole office or have 40 people in a room. Like you can do that and that's fine. And I've done those and they're cool. But I've found that it's way more valuable to have 4 to 6 people in the conference room here in my office, bring in Whole Foods for $50, get some like good stuff from Whole Foods for $50. And then I'm engaging in a more personal way with more people. We're trying to do one lunch and learn a week right now with sizes of groups that large, because that seems to be more effective to have real human connection. So 100%.
And I love the call out. The alpha move is always going to be to, if you have a nice office, but if you have a brick and mortar, you want to get people in there. And I love that 4 to 6, no more than 12 people. And that is always going to be the place of most influence and most value exchange. So keep that in mind. All right, man. Well, we're killing it. Well, you're killing it. Let's get into some specific speed to need strategies. I always tell people when it comes to Mortgage Coach, it's not about the technology, it's about the strategy and the story that you create with the strategy. So when you show these, I want you to frame them around, the borrower's needs. And again, show the screen whatever you think it's on point to show it, but kind of like, what was the need? And then how did you solve for that need, and show Mortgage Coach wherever it aligns?
Yeah, so there's a couple things we can do today. I can show you. I figured most people on this call probably didn't see the strategy for a standard lock call. So I have TCA to do a standard lock call today, which I think is probably high value for a lot of people because it's how to use Mortgage Coach at its like core, how you should start right away. I've got a specific one that happened this morning where I took the names and scrubbed the names out on a real purchase deal that we were able to get a contract with it by demonstrating an appraisal gap strategy. I can show you that one. And then I was going to show you how we leverage the net worth tool with financial advisors and some other stuff. So whatever order you want to take it in
Yeah,
is
well, why don't you bring it in the order you want? And the only thing I do want to frame is the net worth one, guys. Well, that has always been a great strategy with CPAs and financial planners. And I don't feel like there's been some realtors that appreciate that, but post the NAR settlement, when first of all, they need to expand their value proposition. Like every realtor needs to do a value prop analysis. And I guarantee you, I've asked enough questions. I'm a local market expert. I have great negotiation skills. I have this trusted network of appraisal, escrow, lender that you can't live without, blah, 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 blah. And they usually tell you how much your business they do within that entire unspecial, very common, unique value proposition. But to be able to add net worth to the value prop for a realtor to be able to say everything they're saying, and I'm going to help you accelerate your net worth with real estate faster. And I'm going to help you achieve true financial freedom with home ownership faster. Like, they don't know how to have that conversation. And with a partner like this guy. So when you do get to that, tell us the story with how you're doing it with advisors. But if you could add a little bit of vision casting on how you
Sure.
might show that with an agent, in the future.
Yeah, well, it's the same presentation. So here's how like this is like nothing makes my heart jump more than when I hear one of my partners use one of my phrases that I use all the time. And this has started happening more in the last couple of years because they've seen TCAs. They'll even ask me like, "Can you put together a TCA for this property for my customer, whatever?" And I love that stuff. But I'll love it when I go to a buyer consult, which doesn't happen often. But when I do, a few of my partners will say things like, "Hey, you might think the best option is the one that's the lowest interest rate. One of the things that James will help you understand is that the loan option that creates the highest net worth over the time you have it is always going to be the higher option." The reason that's so meaningful is that so many of the realtors out there who don't yet understand that concept because no one's taught it to them are going to look at a loan estimate from XYZ lender with 3 points on it at 599 and miss out on the fact that this person's going to lose $15,000 by buying that rate instead of taking 699 with their partner, because they intend to refinance in a short time frame. So using that stuff to educate, it's the same. We use the TCAs for all of it. But let me show you this one. I want to do this is something that happened this morning. Literally, like last night, there was a dialogue going back and
Hey,
forth.
real quick. I just want to timestamp at 9:37. So 2 minutes ago, he gave you guys exactly what to say, like an incredible script. Make sure you write that down. And then, by the way, don't learn his script. Make it yours. It needs to be something that you understand, something that you deliver. And that was pure gold, man. All right, everyone. I want to make sure that you can really take action on what James talked about right there. It's never been more important that mortgage professionals can give advice where they're delivering the price and they're showing the consumer how to build wealth over time with real estate faster. And so to be able to show that and illustrate that, whether it's a move-up buyer, whether it's a first-time home buyer, is going to have more value with real estate agents than ever before. So I want to make sure you know how to do that. First of all, if you already have Mortgage Coach and you're already a mortgage coach, go to our page, trustengine.com/10x. And as you scroll down, if you don't have it, there's a link to sign up. If you are an executive or you're a loan officer, do you want your executive team to have this? Schedule a demo right here for an executive overview. But here's to sign up. And then once you're already a mortgage coach, these out of the 100+ interviews that I did last year, these are the interviews that will teach all these strategies. They'll turn you into a mortgage coach. This particular interview is a SVP of sales for Daniel Saw's group, where he's walking through how he turns loan officers into mortgage coaches. You'll notice like winning with realtors. Here's the best interviews last year to do that. Winning with rate shoppers. Here's the 3 best interviews. And then to get trained, we literally have training, everything you need to know to use the software, the Mortgage Coach platform. It's right here, available 24/7. And then training. Every Monday, we do a live training. One of our success managers is training how to create your first 20 TCAs. Every Tuesday, I'm interviewing someone amazing, like the interview that's taking place right here that you're watching. Every Wednesday, we're teaching strategies. So all the strategies that James has been going through, we can teach you and train you with live coaching. And then every Thursday, we're just answering questions. It's group level coaching. And every Friday, it's masterminds where we have amazing professionals that we're bringing into this experience. So make sure you can take action on what you just learned and just what you just heard. And I just gave you a page to do it. And if you're not already a mortgage coach, you've got a sign up link, and hopefully we'll get more companies and managers integrating our platform into your pricing engine, to your LOS, and to your entire tech stack. Let's hear what's next.
So yesterday, one of my clients was in an offer situation on a property, made a strong offer, 20% down conventional loan, and there's a bunch of different offers on that property, and they are in the running. And so the listing agent came back and was asking for highest and best by this morning at 9 o'clock. They had an escalation clause that was unlimited to beat any offer up to 5,000 over the next competing offer. So basically, what the contract wrote was, our offer is 332, but we'll beat any written competing offer by 5,000 with no limit. So as high as it goes, we don't care. And they were putting 20% down. The agent came back and said, hey, that's cool and all, but what about the appraisal? Will you bridge a gap? Yada, yada. And this is a point of contention in our market where appraisal gap is a very common term. I don't know. I'm sure there's people on this call where maybe it's not as common in your market, but in a really competitive market, when bids are going over ask price left and right, it doesn't really matter how much you bid, because if I bid 600K and I appraise at 400 and I can get out on loan denial, I didn't really bid 600. I bid whatever I can actually buy the house for on paper, or whatever I've agreed to in reality. And so appraisal gap as a solution has been one of the ways that we win a lot of business in Connecticut. And so the realtor will write in something to the effect of, hey, we'll buy the house for 400K, and in the event it under appraises, we'll cover an appraisal gap of up to X, or we'll cover a full appraisal gap. In other words, we'll pay 400 no matter what it appraises for, as an example. And so this is a common problem, because a lot of realtors understand that to mean that if it under appraises by 50K, you purely have to bring 50,000 cash to close. Now, a lot of you guys on this call know that that's not true, but you might not have spent the time to articulate that in a way to your partners where they can really understand it. And so this TCA is super helpful, because I'm going to show you 4 solutions. It looks like 3, and I'll show you the 4th, and in fact, the one that they went with, or will potentially go with if it under appraises. But they were able to, I mean, decisions haven't been made, but I'll be shocked if they don't secure this deal today with this strategy. So let me share my screen if I can. Can you see?
We see it. Yeah,
all right, beautiful.
Looking good.
And I just took my, let me just make sure. Yeah, this is the preview screen, Dave. Is it?
Yeah, we're saying high
Yeah,
appraisal
yeah.
gap.
All right, good. So you guys, this is a TCA, total cost analysis. I'm sure you guys have all seen this. And so what we're looking at here is the purchase scenario for what the offer was, which I did, since it was a 5K escalation, I wrote it as 337. The offer was 332. I just assumed they'd be competing and have to go up 5K. So I kind of gave him, it's not a worst case, because we don't know what the worst case number would be, but the realtor seems to think 332 is where it's going to land. So I did 337 as 5K over that as a worst case. So what I'm showing them is, hey, here's your numbers. If you buy this house for 337 with 20% down, you know, here's your payment breakdown with taxes, insurance. There's no PMI, you'll notice, yada, yada, total payment. And I show them this on their screen. And when I click on this stuff on the preview, it actually opens up on their screen. So I can control all this stuff in real time, which is super helpful. And I show them this. Now, as it relates to the appraisal gap, what we wanted to show and demonstrate was, okay, if the house under appraises, the realtor seems to think if it went for 337, it might under appraise for 10,000. And so I'm engaged in a conversation with them. And I looked at the numbers and said, hey, MI is going to be the same factor all the way down to an 85 LTV. So let me show this as a $19,000 gap to basically near double what they thought was going to be worst case scenario. And I'm showing 4 specific solutions. So here's solution 1. Solution 1 is you buy the house, it under appraises, and you want to keep your 80 LTV. Your loan goes from 269 to 254. If you want to keep your 80 LTV, you don't have to, but if you wanted to, this is what you'd have to do. You'd bridge that gap in cash, and it brings your cash to close up 94,000. Now, that's a real bummer. Nobody wants to bring an extra 19,000 bucks cash to close in the event of a short appraisal. And so this is not a recommended solution. Solution 2 is the one that you guys are probably most used to, which is that you could add monthly mortgage insurance. Now you'll notice that the payment changes. It actually goes down $124 if you bridge it in cash because your loan amount is lower. But if you want to just pick up monthly PMI instead, your payment drops by $24. In fact, what I'm going to do is show this a different way. Let me change this for you, Dave. So I'm going to update the analysis to show we save 99 bucks if we end up paying it in cash, but we have to come up with 19,000 more, or it's going to cost me $24.71 a month if I take monthly PMI instead. And so I'm able to show the client that, and now they have a clear understanding of two solutions. Here's the third solution that I was showing and most likely recommend, which is basically single. Now, I don't use single premium because they don't know what that means. I just say one-time mortgage insurance. And so what I'm showing is that they're paying the mortgage insurance in cash. You'll notice that cash to close on option 1 and option 3 is $880 more. The upfront mortgage insurance premium is right here, $863 more. So I'm showing a single premium mortgage insurance, and I'm calling it one-time mortgage insurance for the customer. And that leaves their payment identical, and their cash to close goes up $863, which, not a big deal. This person has it. But if they really didn't want it to go up, and honestly, this is what I would recommend anyway. One of the beautiful things about Coach is if you do single MI or use it a lot, which I use quite a bit, you can show it finance too. So keep your eyes on this loan amount here. You're going to see that the MI is going to jump into the loan amount now. And I'll put that there. And what is the difference to the consumer when I do this? Okay, so now the loan went up to 270, and rather than bringing 800 bucks more cash to close, we have no change to cash to close, and my payment goes up $5.67. And so when the realtor says, "Hey James, I'd like to bridge an appraisal gap of $18,000," and the consumer hears, "I have to come up with $18,000 in cash," and then you're able to articulate, actually, your numbers only change $5.67 a month. It's like this immediate light bulb goes off where the customer gets very comfortable with this concept. So this customer ended up, we ran some other scenarios too, but they ended up waiving their actual appraisal contingency on this because it's not going to underappraise by more than 20. And in reality, she ended up coming back and saying, "You know what, James, I'm going to put down $95,000. And we figured out that it could appraise for as low as 283 with no impact, which is like never going to happen. But her worst case outcome for our scenario today is $5.67 a month. And that would be pretty confusing to explain on a phone call. But when you show the data in this way and you walk them through, hey, you can bring 19K. Let me show you again. Let me walk you guys through it in the most simple manner possible. Here's the purchase scenario. If we underappraise, you can bring $19,000 more cash to close here, and you'll save $99 a month. So if you want to have a lower payment, this is an option for you. Option 2 is you can take monthly mortgage insurance. Your cash does not change, and your payment goes up $24, and this will go away with time. Option 3 is you can pay in cash a nominal mortgage insurance policy, which, or as I'm showing it here, you can finance it, which changes your payment $5.67 a month. And so now we go from having a conversation about a really scary thing, which is bridging this huge gap that makes, this cash question mark in the consumer's mind of like, well, I can't bridge a $20,000 gap, Dave. I don't have $20,000. Well, cool. You and I both know they don't need it, but they certainly don't. And a lot of your partners don't either. And so I use this to basically demonstrate $5.67 a month. She says to me on the call, "I would never pass on a house I love for $5.67 a month." And I said to her, "Then you should put your best foot forward." And she made the decision on her own to waive her, appraisal on this particular property, which, she's got a mortgage commitment. Obviously, if there was a condition issue, it's a clean house. She's got a mortgage commitment in the contract. So, she could get out if collateral was denied or whatever before people start popping off on comments on that stuff. But we're not trying to make people go astray with dangerous strategies. We're trying to demonstrate for them, hey, here's a simple solution to what seems like a big problem, but it's really not. Are you okay if you have to pay $6 more a month in the event that it underappraises for more than double what your realtor thinks it will underappraise for? Yes, you are. Cool. Then proceed with confidence. And they're able to write stronger offers and win those bids. And this chart makes it infinitely easier, to see that. And just to kind of show that again, if you're looking at a 5-year solution, look at this, Dave. It's going to cost you $257 more a month, or I'm sorry, it's going to save you $257 over. If you had this loan for 5 years, you'd save $257 doing it this way over doing monthly MI, which is probably the solution that most people are using. And I think in this market, the reality is they're probably going to refinance in less than 5 years. And so that really is the winning option, I think.
All right. So I want to just couple coaching notes for everyone. Notice that his language, he's always being customer first, not using industry acronyms and jargon. He's making it simple to understand from a consumer's perspective. He's always trying to make the complex concepts simple. That's why he's layering it. Starts with one program, adds another program, adds a third program. And if you just would have started with all 4 programs, it would have been harder for the consumer to understand it. And he's always trying to simplify and make things easy to understand. And then you notice he's got solution 1, solution 2, solution 3. Like, he is a solutionist. So, and dude, he's going to crush it in the market. And everything that he's doing, taking nothing away from James, they're not, difficult things to do. Like, you could train yourself, every producing manager on here, you could train your loan officers to do this. They'd win more realtor relationships. They'd have higher conversion rates. They'd have higher gross margin because they're delivering a premium service and value. And at the end of the day, why we titled this call, Creating Confident Buyers, he's creating confident buyers in a marketplace where confidence ain't so common. And that's going to also play really well with realtors. So, bro, we got like 11 minutes left. Let's knock out the other 2 strategies. I want to do
it's one presentation, so it's actually one thing I'm showing 2 ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's rock it out. I want to hear the net worth piece, and then let's show everybody how to confidently lock in a loan.
All right. So this is basically, I'm going to show it 2 different ways, but it's this. I just copied the same presentation twice. So let me open the preview here.
Hey guys, any questions? Put them down below. We'll try to get to them before I run out of time.
All right. So this is literally what I would send to
you think of the call. Use a little reaction and let them know how you're feeling about the call so far. All right. Go ahead, bro.
This is what I would use on a lock call. I would literally email this to the customer. I would unlock it. In fact, I'll show you that real quick because
this is a sweet feature. We have people all the time say, "Oh, I don't want to show them their options and have go shop it." James showed it in the last interview, and it looks like he's going to show it again, how you can activate the presentation and you can deactivate the presentation.
All right, so let me share my screen here. Okay, cool. So do you see the excuse us? We need a little more time.
Yeah, right now he's got it deactivated.
So I send them an email with like, hey, here's lock options, here's important dates, closing commitment, whatever. That's just a template I have. And when they click on it, if they're like a real hyper shoppy person, this is what it says, because I want to unlock it once I get on the call. I don't want them to go through it and ghost me. I want them to actually have to talk to me about this information before they can decide what they want to do with it. When I unlock it, here's what it shows. This is options 1 through 4 on a preview screen. And I can highlight things that will highlight on their screen in real time. And if you look at this quickly, like everybody gravitates to option 4, and there's plenty of times where option 4 can be the right choice because it's the lowest rate. But they don't really understand right away that it's because they're buying points, which if they click through, they would see it's very clear and transparent inside the breakout, but they won't get there without me guiding them there. They might see the cash to close is higher. They probably think it's down payment before we dialogue about it. And so I'm walking them through this choice. And what I do is I'll guide them over to the graphs first, where I'll walk them through, hey, on your screen, are the graphs down below or are they to the right? Oh, they're to the right, James. Okay, cool. You see the blue graph? I do. Everything in here correlates back to option 1. You'll notice that option 2 is $41 less than option 1. Option 3 is $153 less than option 1. And option 4 is $229 less than option 1. That's pretty self-explanatory. Let's go down and look at the bottom graph. Now, often on this one, Dave, I won't start with net worth. What I'll start with, and I'll show you guys the change because you can actually do this. I'll start with this graph. It'll say interest in 20 years. So I'm showing a 10-year time frame here and a 20-year time frame. And I'll draw them to this one. Hey, if you were to have this loan for 20 years, here's the true interest expense. So in the spirit of transparency, I want you to see this, but I think you would agree are you the type of person that if rates came down, you would refinance at that time? Well, yes, James, if rates come down, I think I'll refinance. Great. And that's what leads us to this one. Now, this graph's not necessarily self-explanatory, but do you see the purple graph? Yes, James, I see the purple graph. Great. What the purple graph is showing you is the net savings you'll have over the time frame shown. So we're looking at if you took option 4, which is what you said you wanted, it's going to save you about 23.5 grand, which is pretty good. That looks pretty good. And if we go back to the chart, you're going to notice the cash to close is about $11,000 more, but you're going to recoup that 11 and put an extra 23 in your pocket. And that looks pretty good. But there's some time frames we want to look at, because I don't think you're going to have this loan for 10 years. What if you had it for 5? Let's take a look at that. And now I change this graph on their screen in real time to 5 years. Okay, so now you're paying 11 grand. You're getting your money back, which is good, but you're only saving 6,200. Not really great. How long do you think it, I'll explain, like, I think rates might come down in 2 to 3 years. So we'll look at different time frames. I'll show them 36 months. Now the graph, okay, now look what happens. Now we're losing money with option 4. We're only losing $700, not that big of a deal, but we don't want to lose any money. And if I go down to 2 years and I put it at a 2-year time frame for a potential refinance scenario, now we're losing $4,198 if we take option 4. Now, here's the thing that's so tricky, Mr. or Mrs. Consumer. Everyone thinks the lowest rate is the best choice, but I am of the belief that the loan product that creates the highest net worth is going to be the right choice for you. That's a pretty hard statement to disagree with. Would you agree? And they're always like, yes, I agree with that. Like, no one disagrees with that statement. And so if we think rates might come down in a 2-year time frame, then this is the best choice. Now, this is the opposite in a low rate environment. We're going to demonstrate why they should buy discount points in a low rate environment, right? And so this kind of goes either direction, but right now, we're not really encouraging that people buy a bunch of points. And so now if I was engaged with them and their financial advisor, or this was referred to me by a financial advisor, then the conversation changes a little bit, and so does the math, Dave. And here's why. It's not just about which option is lower, a higher net worth. It's also what happens with the extra cash flow. So they said their budget was $4,100, which option 1 achieves, okay? So what happens if, and let me show you guys this screen. Can you see this, the back end?
Yep.
Okay, so in the back end of MortgageCoach, I can go into the analysis for reinvestment and show, like, well, what if I take their savings and I show it reinvested in a couple different ways? How does it then change the math? I can show it toward paying the loan down up here. I can show it toward, a cash savings account, or I can show it invested with an advisor. So let's say these people had $173,000 with their advisor, okay? And let's say that money, their advisor told me that they expected that money would grow at a rate of 7.5% on average over the next several years based on where they expect the market to go. Now, I'm making this up. I get this data from them, right? If they're making a choice that's about $4,100 a month and how to use it, now we take the savings and show it reinvested into the actual product itself. So let's say they were going to contribute, they're going to contribute, $41 extra. So we're going to keep the payments the same. They're saving $153 with option 3. So we're going to now, instead of just pocket that cash, we're going to use that and give it to the advisor, or we're going to give $229 to the advisor to invest into this account that's $173 that will grow at 7.5%. How then does it change the actual payment? And so this is where, if I take this screen away and I bring you back to net worth, let me update this.
Wait, you didn't flip it to net worth in the.
Yeah, I'm doing it right now.
Yeah. So there's a little place to show, instead of show interest, he's showing net worth.
So I'm changing this to net worth. Now, in 20 years, that's kind of a long time. We're looking at a 2-year time frame. The math on the loan options doesn't change in a 2-year time frame. However, if we look at the analysis and we change the long-term analysis to 2 years, let's look at what happens in a 2-year time frame. So now it's true that option 1 would save them $4,100 in interest. It's just also true that they're going to make $8,000 more by taking option 4. And so the math can go either way. If their plan is not to invest the cash with their advisor, then option one is the best choice because it saves them $4,198. But if their plan is to take the cash disparity of the 41 and what they're saving with option four, even in a 2-year time frame, and give it to their financial advisor and invest it into that account that had 173,000 at an expected growth rate of 7.5%, then they're going to make $8,000 over here. And therefore, option four is the choice that creates the highest net worth. Now, we're going through this pretty fast, and you should probably go back and watch this and look at the tool and do all the trainings that are out there because we're out of time. But the long and short is this: if you know who the audience is and the problem that they face, then you can become the advisor that creates the highest net worth. Selling points is not a challenge when it makes you mathematically richer. Not buying points is not a challenge to sell a higher rate on when it mathematically makes you richer, if it creates a higher net worth for you. And so a lot of times we're working with the advisors, the CPAs, or mom and dad, right, to look at it. Or this chart gets really exciting on a refinance. Like, I'll tell you this story, Dave. I had a person call to do a refi with a financial advisor referral. They had 7 years left on their loan. They said they would never take a product longer than 10. We ended up taking a 30-year loan in the end, right? Why? Because the cash flow from the 30-year loan was so high that they were able to invest it with the advisor and pay the loan off in 4 years as a result of the growth of that cash. So they took a 30-year product, but we separated the amortization by which they pay the loan back from the actual loan product itself by demonstrating with the advisor. And, voila, now that advisor's eating out of your hands. And so for those of you who do mortgage reviews, one of the best things you can do is take the tool, sit down with an advisor and say, I'll do this for all your clients once a year. And now I guarantee you'll get a bunch of loans from those guys. And that's part of the thing that we do. So
Yeah,
we're out of time. I'll stop.
No, tons of ideas. And imagine with move-up buyers. Realtors need help getting listings. And if someone is moving from a, let's just say $500,000 home to a $650,000, and you put appreciation to work, you're able to show, hey, what's the net worth growth? Yeah, maybe you're getting a higher interest rate, but what's the net worth growth? When you're working with first-time home buyers, they're always seeing a radical increase in net worth based off of mortgage leveraged appreciation rates. So become a master at showing net worth. Every time you deliver price, it should come with advice. And if you do, you're going to win big. So dude, you completely killed it. Everyone watch this in Zoom, give us a reaction. Let us know what you thought of today's call. James is our second interview. I can't wait for our third. We've got to get you, we got to do more training, more education together. Did I ever introduce you to Kristen Messerly with First Home IQ? I can't remember if I,
No.
I've got to do that. We've got to get you in the First Home IQ community. So if you got value from this, give it a like, share it with your mortgage friends. Hopefully every producing manager on this call, you're leading by example. You're using this as a training asset. If your loan officers are not mortgage coaches yet, go to our website, trustengine.com. Also, we have a training site. It's called trustengine.com/10x. If you're not a member already, there's a button to sign up, but then it's got videos. I'm going to make sure this video is part of our 10x page that will do training. And it's also, if you scroll down, it's got a place for how to use the product, how to create these strategies. And we do live training every day of the week. So James, appreciate you, my brother.
Thanks for having me.
Good one. Until the next time. This call is a wrap, everybody.